One power, invisible, and you see it everywhere and every day. One power, indescribable, and you speak of it with every word you say. Mysterious until you know the truth. As simple as the love inside of you. Call it God, call it Spirit, call it Jesus, call it Lord, call it Buddha, Baha'u'llah, angels' wings or heaven's door. But whatever name you give it, it's all one power, can't you see? It's the power of the love in you and me. One power, one power.
Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living, Midtown, Atlanta. Such is the nature of life that all it asks and all it wants is the opportunity to appear. And you are that opportunity, and so am I, and so it is. Wherever you are, whatever path brought you here today, please know that you are welcome and celebrated. We know who you are. You are an individual expression of the divine life in which we all live. We are life's opportunity to be someone unique and wonderful. Whatever your ethnic background, your religious affiliation, however you know yourself, describe yourself, your pronouns, your gender identities, we are glad you are joining us here today. You are welcome to be a part of this community in whatever way serves you. And here's our vision statement. We are a strong, open, globally connected community centered on the clarity of principle through teaching, service, and practice. We create a safe and respectful environment that supports healthy spiritual growth. And now, here is our Declaration of Principles as outlined by Ernest Holmes.
A few of the Declaration of Principles we live by.
I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding.
I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
So grateful, hey.
All right. So we have a group of people called practitioners. So a practitioner is someone who's demonstrated the ability to use spiritual practice and spiritual laws to bring about changes in their lives. And they have demonstrated that they know how to bring about these changes for others when asked. Licensed by Centers for Spiritual Living, they are able to provide you with spiritual guidance and support upon those areas where you need assistance. You can contact them through our website, cslmidtown.org. Today, we've got one of our wonderful practitioners with us, Mya Fuller, to share with us good ideas and an affirmative prayer called a spiritual mind treatment. Welcome, Mya.
Greetings, CSL Midtown. Happy second Sunday of February 2025. February is Black History Month, and for many, Black History Month represents freedom. Today, we are going to talk about, I am going to share with you a piece about freedom from fear that was written by Ernest Holmes and published in the Science of Mind magazine in May 1971. 1971 was before I was born. So what a treat. So this is a tumultuous time in our world and our country, depending upon who you ask. And so I thought thought that freedom from fear is a good thing for us to remind ourselves about this week. This is going to be our treatment and our affirmative prayer, which is a treatment written in the words of Ernest Holmes in the form of this article. Freedom from Fear by Ernest Holmes. Probably the most contagious disease in the world is fear. We know a good deal about germs of physical disease, but it is only in recent years that science is beginning to speak of the possibility of what you and I might call the mental germ of fear that infects people. Recently, I read a magazine article dealing with the effects of fear. While this subject isn't new to you and me, it is new in the field of science. The article stated that John Jones was humming a gay tune and seemed to exude confidence in himself and in the world when he entered a streetcar and sat next to a man evidently filled with fear and apprehension. By the time John Jones got off the car, he was in the grip of a terrific anxiety which he couldn't explain. For a scientist to state that just being near a fear-ridden person can cause one to be vaguely fearful without knowing why is something new. Studies at one university show that a person can be terrifically affected by merely listening to a voice that sounds anxious. Nervous, fretful, and agitated children who have nightmares and who can't retain their food often are really suffering from an inner agitation as a direct result of their parents' thoughts and feelings. We little realize the effect of the thoughts of those around us, particularly of those in whom we are the most interested in and to whom we react with the deepest emotion. Suppose we broaden this field a little and say that the whole world is filled with the thoughts of people who live in it. Perhaps we are all more or less subject to the passing emotions of the public mind. A leading psychiatrist has said that fear can render a person completely unconscious as far as his brain is concerned. It paralyzes the memory. We know that in cases of amnesia, people are so frightened by some unconscious emotion that they even forget their own names and where they came from. We are told that fear produces a mysterious chemical which is released in the blood, but that chemical disappears when the anxiety is over. Well, we need not dwell too long on the negative side of fear. We may as well admit that we all do have a little fears and anxieties. And of course, we wish to get over them. Fortunately for us, the real and lasting healing of fear and anxiety is not to be found in a drug or in physical manipulation. The cure is to be found within our own minds. There is something we can do about it. We can find out why we are afraid, what we are afraid of, then reverse the whole process. The most simple method is to learn to have faith in life, in God, the power greater than we are. The scriptures tell us that perfect love casts out fear, and that where love is, fear cannot remain. Did you ever notice the effect of just being with a person who is calm and poised and unafraid? How differently you feel, how buoyed up and confident you become. Why should not each of us, then, be a broadcasting station for faith? It should be interesting if someday we should read this headline in the daily newspaper. A germ of fear is now infecting the whole community. And to read in an article that a group of people were working to counteract the fear germ by broadcasting faith. Then a few weeks later to read another headline. We are now inoculated with faith and the fear germ has disappeared. If fear is contagious, faith is doubly so. How wonderful it is to think that we can broadcast mental germs of confidence, love, of peace, of joy, of goodwill. How wonderful to know that each one of us can so influence his environment that everyone who steps into it will be benefited. This is exactly what we can do if we desire. We may be certain that there is at the center of every man's being a strong fortress of faith, placed there by a power greater than he is, by an intelligence that knows everything, by the divine presence of God within. It is to this indwelling God that we must turn. How would it be if we worked out just a few simple rules for doing this? First of all, if we're filled with fears, we should not try to harbor them as a great secret in our lives, but find some close friend or confidant to whom we may unburden ourselves. Of course, this does not mean that we are to run around imposing our troubles on others or that we unload them onto other people's laps as though they were responsible for them. But there is a certain tension connected with fear or anxiety, which is released by sharing it with others. However, this is but a temporary thing. Next, we must learn to face our fears. It is not going to do us any good to run away from them. We should not be afraid to analyze them, and we should learn to explain to ourselves just why we know there is nothing to be afraid of. Whenever we find ourselves brooding over a fear or entertaining an anxiety, we must begin to do something about it. We must turn to the power greater than we are that put us here and learn to have confidence in that power, to confess our fears to ourselves before this power, and then reach just a little higher in faith than we are in fear. We will discover a miracle taking place. Fears will begin to recede until finally they appear only as a speck on the horizon of our minds. And then they shall seem just to walk over the horizon and disappear entirely, like the darkness fleeing from the light. As we learn to lay down our fears before the great mind, which knows all things and whose presence fills all space, we learn also to bring our faith and confidence to this same presence. We do this with complete trust that our word, working through the law of mind, will bring into our experience those things in which we have faith. Fear has brought confusion. Faith will bring to birth confidence. Anxiety has brought days of conflict and nights of dread. Faith alone can heal this confusion and drive from our minds all thoughts of fear and dissipate all anxiety. Love can bring harmony in our lives. Let us know that underneath are the everlasting arms. Let us feel the presence of God, just as we feel the presence of life. And in feeling this presence, we can feel no fear. The happiness of living is ours. Every moment of our day is made glad with the joy of life. We are in love with life, and life is in love with us. And so we unite with all people in goodwill, loving and being loved, blessing and being blessed. Love gives us a sense of security and confidence, and we know that we are united with the only power there is. So there comes to us a great peace of mind, a deep sense of belonging, a complete realization that God is right where we are today and every day. And I wish this for you and for me and the whole entire world, and so it is. And now, let us turn to our music for reflection.
What do I want my day to be? I choose. What do I want to feel today? I choose. What do I want to be today? I choose. I choose, I choose, I choose. I choose. Today, I choose to be grateful, so grateful. It's all up to me. Today, I choose to be loving, so loving. Today, I choose to be loving, loving. Today, I choose to be joyful, so joyful. Today, I choose to be joyful, joyful. Today, I choose. Today, I choose. Today, I choose. Today, I choose. Whatever I choose is how my day's gonna be. I claim what I want, 'cause it's all up to me. It's all up to me. Today, I choose to be thankful, so thankful. Today, I choose to be thankful, thankful. Oh, today, I choose to be grateful, so grateful. Today, I choose to be grateful, grateful. Every day to be grateful, grateful. Every day I'm gonna be grateful, grateful. I am grateful, grateful.
All right. What an awesome song by Karen Drucker. So it's my privilege to introduce our speaker this morning. Reverend Cynthia Paulsen is an interfaith and religious science minister, a divine science spiritual practitioner, and motivational speaker and author. Her sermons and workshops are deeply rooted in New Thought principles, inspiring personal growth and transformation. She is the author of Undoing the Knots, Reclaiming Our Good. She's currently working on her doctorate of divinity with the Emerson Institute and writing a new book. And she's happy to be living in Brookings, Oregon. with her family. I give you Cynthia Paulsen.
Hello, CSL Midtown. It is always such a pleasure to be here with you. So, hey, do you know this one? If you're happy and you know it, kind of falls flat when I'm in an online service because I can't hear you. But I know that if we were gathered together in person, someone would say, clap your hands, right? Or I guess you could stomp your feet or shout hooray or do all three. We know the song, right? So in that song, you can't do anything unless you know you're happy, right? If you're happy and you know it, you do something. So how do you know you're happy? It's kind of a silly question, right? You just know. Happiness is one of those weird, vague things that's hard to describe and identify, but you know it when you know it. Happiness is relative to the person experiencing it. So what makes me happy might not make you happy, and vice versa. So how do we even begin to discuss this? We're all individual expressions of the divine. We know that we are all one, but we're all also really unique and different with different ideas about our happiness. So generally speaking, what is happiness? You know that I am a word girl. I'm a writer. So my inclination would be to just dive right into a definition of happiness. But let's kind of feel it out first. Is it a good feeling? Is it an emotion? A state of being? A state of mind? A state of consciousness? An agreeable mood? A positive attitude? A habit? A choice? A practice? Yes, it is all the things, isn't it? So I will tell you, when you do look up happiness in the dictionary, the first thing it says is it's the state of being happy. Well, duh. Very clever. So thankfully, it goes on and says more. It says happiness is a state of well-being. Okay, so it is a state of being. It's a state of being well. Happiness is contentment. I would say contentment with life. This sounds great. Happiness is joy. Happiness is a pleasurable or satisfying experience. Duh. Some of this is like, yeah, duh. Of course it is. You know, it also lists good fortune and prosperity in the definition of happiness. I say yes to that. Like, wouldn't that make you happy? Yes, absolutely. Good fortune and prosperity. Yep. Now, in preparing for this talk, I was reading a book called The Happiness Advantage by Sean Aker. This is the book, by the way. Ooh, there's a glare, sorry. And I loved how he defined happiness. He said, happiness is the joy we feel striving after our potential. It's kind of deep. Think about that for a second. The joy we feel striving after our potential. That word potential makes me think about our spiritual potential. You know, all of us have the same potential. We talk about this in New Thought, that spiritually speaking, our potential is in God, the divine, or whatever the word is that you use for the one power, the one life. Our potential is God's potential. It's God's perfection. And, you know, Ernest Holmes said that potential man, and I'm going to edit that, and potential woman, is just as perfect as the inherent God. That it's the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, which would, of course, make us happy. So that means we have the potential at not just any given moment, but in every given moment to receive and experience all God's goodness. That's a big deal. The potential for that is already here. So let's let that soak in for a second. In fact, let's do this as an affirmation. Just repeat after me. The potential for my happiness is always here. So one of the ways Ernest Holmes defined happiness is a consciousness of the goodness of God, being in a state of being aware of your good. Science of mind, divine science, new thought, we use the word good a lot, our good. These philosophies teach that God is good and only good, and God is omnipresence. God is always here in all ways. So therefore, our good must be here too. And any good of any kind makes us happy. So maybe the thing for us to think about today is, why does happiness even matter? Why am I even talking about this today? I think happiness matters because when I see someone who is happy in their life, it always looks to me like they've got something figured out, like they're doing life right. When we are happy, we are doing life the way the divine intends for us. Because here's a newsflash, guys. We're supposed to be happy. Did you know that? We are supposed to be happy. One of my favorite Ernest Holmes quotes from The Science of Mind says that it is never the will of God that any man or woman should be unhappy. It is never the will of God that anyone should be unhappy. We have a right to any happiness of which we can conceive, provided that happiness hurts no one. So as long as the thing we want, the thing we desire, isn't going to hurt anyone, we have a right to it, whatever it is. We're not here to be miserable. Happiness is our right just because we're alive, because we exist. So I don't know about you. I can't speak for you. But when I look around my life, at the world around me, my community, I see a lot of unhappy people. Do you? And I don't even mean the people we would stereotypically think of as being unhappy. Like if you are seeing an unhoused homeless person, or somebody dealing with a life-threatening illness, or somebody who's clinically depressed, those people we would think of as, of course, being unhappy. I'm not talking about that. I mean regular people whose needs are being met, who are perfectly intelligent. They have great relationships. They have a great job. They're making good money. Why are so many people unhappy? So I mentioned that book a minute ago, The Happiness Advantage by Shawn Achor. And if you don't want to read the book, he has a TED Talk about this book. It's like 12 minutes long. Watch it. It's hilarious. You'll laugh the whole time. He's a very good speaker. But he studied this, why people are so unhappy. He's a Harvard guy, a professor in positive psychology. He taught the most popular course on campus, which was Why Happiness Matters to Our Successful Life Experience. And what he discovered in researching for that class and for this book is that many of us, in fact, most of us, have a formula for a successful life that's wrong. We're doing it wrong. We think if I work hard, I'll be a success and then I'll be happy. And he says we have it completely backwards, because that mindset makes our happiness always out of reach. It reminded me very much of when you're first learning about affirmations and affirmative prayer in spiritual mind treatment. And we know that, when we're writing an affirmation, we use the present tense. We don't use the future tense. We never want to say, I will be happy, or I will be a success. Then it's always out of reach and it never happens. So he said, what we're doing as humans is, we set these goals and we might accomplish something, but then we don't actually stop to enjoy it and be happy. We just move the goalpost and we end up making more goals to accomplish, and then to say again, then I'll be happy. We're never really happy. So he makes this amazing claim. Get ready for this because it might sound familiar. He claims that 90% of our long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but it's predicted by the way our brain processes the world. Okay, wait, what? He says, it's not that reality shapes us. It's that the lens through which we view the world shapes our reality. That sounds a little like thoughts become things. Sounds like, our consciousness and our awareness of our good creates more good. It sounds like we create our reality with our attitudes, our attention, our intentions, and our faith. This guy proved New Thought principles work. I love it. So this is his formula for success. Be happy first, which sounds to me spiritually like recognize the truth of your wholeness first. Realize that your good is at hand. If you are positive and optimistic and happy right now in the present moment, Sean Aker proves with the data in his book, you perform significantly better than if you're unhappy. And I mean better across the board, better in intelligence, more creativity, better energy, better business outcomes, and on and on. So the answer is, according to him, be happy first. Okay, got it. So how do we be happy? So from a spiritual perspective, and if you could put my slide up, this is what we're going to talk about. The 5 things that we can do to be happy, to cultivate more happiness. Okay, here's what they are. Let's run through them. Recognize that happiness is a choice. Number 2, we're going to be in the present moment, fully releasing the past. Number 3, have gratitude, and don't be rolling your eyes. We're going to dive into that one and have fun. Number 4, serving others, performing acts of kindness. And number 5, exercise. What? Oh, yep. Okay. So number 1, recognize that happiness is a choice. There's a famous quote by Abraham Lincoln that says, most folks are as happy as they make up their minds to be. I love that. It's a decision. It's a choice. And the crazy thing is, if you have ever learned anything about Abraham Lincoln or studied him, he suffered from severe bouts of depression, and he experienced so much grief and loss in his life. You don't have to leave the slide up if you don't want to leave it up, just so you know. So again, he was depressed. He suffered from grief and loss. And yet this quote from Abraham Lincoln shows us that he was clearly aware that within each of us is the choice to make up our minds and choose happiness. Now, we hear that happiness is a choice, and we nod our heads and we know it. But if we're honest, we know that sometimes in life, we experience things that make it very hard to choose happiness. My mother-in-law is the most incredible example of this. I've always wanted to give a talk about her, so this is her moment. Her name was Joni, and I met her in 2011 when I first started dating my husband, and she made her transition just a few years later in 2015, so I did not know her for very long. But I would describe her as a genuinely happy person. I never saw her complain. I never saw her sad. She always had a smile on her face. Every time she would meet you, she would say, "Hey," with a great big smile and a great big hug from the very first time she met you. Easygoing, she laughed a lot, just a real sweetheart, a happy person. So then I started to learn some things about her. And the more I got to know the family, I learned that Joni experienced more deep, profound grief in her life than anyone I had ever known. As a child, when she was 6 years old, her mother was very ill and she died from cancer. So there was this grief and pain in her childhood. So Joni grows up and marries the man who would be my father-in-law. They have 4 beautiful children. And when the oldest daughter was 15, she was in a terrible car accident. She was in a coma and put on life support for 3 months until she was taken off life support and she died. So this woman experienced two of the biggest, most painful losses a person can experience: the loss of a parent as a child and the loss of a child as a parent. And then when she's still fairly young, I think just barely 60, she experiences the other huge loss, the loss of her spouse. Her husband died. So I come along years later, knowing any of this, and I am struck by what a happy person she is. So I asked her once how she did it. I really wanted to know what her secret was to being a happy person after experiencing all that loss. And she got very shy and blushed because she was adorable. And she just shrugged her shoulders and shook her head. And this is what she said. I'll never forget this. She said, "I didn't really have a choice." Isn't that interesting? She did have a choice. Not everyone thinks the way that she did. Someone else might say, after having experienced all of that, "I have no choice but to be unhappy and miserable." And we might not fault them for that kind of thought. But she felt like she had no choice to live her life experiencing as much joy and happiness as she could. Happiness is an inside job. We each individually have the free will to choose it no matter what we have experienced. Okay, the second thing on our list for ways to cultivate our happiness is to be in the present moment, fully releasing the past. There's a great quote from Ingrid Bergman, the famous movie star actress, and it says, "Happiness is good health and a bad memory." I thought that was so clever. Of course, it's easier to be happy when we're healthy, but that bad memory, yep, we need to forget stuff, don't we? Holding on to our memories of the past really impacts whether or not we're happy. It can interfere with whether or not we're happy. Ernest Holmes reminds us in The Science of Mind that we should erase the thoughts of yesterday that would rob us of today's happiness. I love that. We don't even realize that thinking about the past takes away the opportunity to find happiness right now, in that potential joy, the good that's right in front of us. Groucho Marx once said that yesterday is dead, tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. I have just one day today, and I'm going to be happy in it. Now, I think that the best way that we stay focused on today, on the present moment, is with a consistent meditation practice. I really do. It teaches us how to be still, how to be calm, how to respond instead of react. It teaches us how to be fully aware in the present moment. And I know for me, meditation slows me down so that I can more fully appreciate my life. Okay, so that leads me to the third thing for cultivating more happiness, which is gratitude. And I feel like sometimes gratitude just gets beaten to death, doesn't it? I just think the challenge is to look at gratitude as something beyond make a list of all the things you're grateful for. You know, we hear that and it just sounds so boring. Gratitude can be so much more than that. It's about shifting the way you think. There's a book called The Magic. I just happen to have it. It's by the author of The Secret, Rhonda Byrne. And the whole book is about gratitude. And there's a chapter in there about a game that she plays called Cue the Magic. And this game is about teaching yourself to be triggered by things that you encounter during your day, being triggered by the universe to remember to be more grateful. So here are a few random examples. Every time you turn a faucet on, whether your bathtub faucet or your kitchen sink or whatever, you're reminded to have gratitude for clean running water. Every time you hear an ambulance, you can have gratitude for the fact that that person is going to receive treatment and get medical care, that's available to them. You can have gratitude for your own health. Every time you get a text or a phone call from a friend, it's an opportunity. That text is a trigger to have gratitude for that friend in your life. I've been playing this game lately because it has been unusually cold here. We had a freeze warning out here in Paradise on the Oregon coast, and that's not normal for out here. So our heat has been kicking on a lot. So every time I hear the heat kick on, that is a great trigger for me to remember to have such gratitude for not only do I have this beautiful home that I can heat, but that heat is so warm and cozy and comfortable. So I love this because it's a game to think about shifting our thinking to gratitude. And games are fun and happy. And being in a state of gratitude and appreciation, we know, puts us in vibrational alignment with God's good, which is our good. Okay, fourth thing that cultivates our happiness is serving others and performing acts of kindness. This has been studied and proven scientifically that helping others triggers those feel-good chemicals in our brain, the dopamine, serotonin, the oxytocin. Okay, so here I'm going to give you a quote. They're going to put a quote up on the screen for me. I'm not going to tell you who said it. I want to see if you can guess who said this. Nothing brings me more happiness than trying to help the most vulnerable people in society. It is a goal and an essential part of my life, a kind of destiny. Whoever is in distress can call on me. I will come running wherever they are. Who do you think said that? I am betting, I wish I could hear you. Get your guesses. I'm betting that some of you are thinking Mother Teresa. It definitely sounds like something she would say, but it's not. It's Princess Diana. Isn't that interesting? She thought that nothing brought her more happiness than helping the most vulnerable people in society. So it is true. Serving others makes us happy. There is a fantastic story that illustrates this in the book, The Mastery of Love by Don Miguel Ruiz. It's an ancient Toltec story called The Master. And you may have heard it before. The master was speaking in front of a huge crowd, and a man in the audience was very moved, and he wanted to invite the master to his home to serve him a meal. He didn't think that he would accept, but the master says, yes, I'll come, prepare everything and be ready. So the man prepares all this food and wine, and he gets some beautiful clothes to present to the master when he comes. He's all ready and sets the table, and there's a knock at the door, and it's an old woman. And the woman tells him, I'm starving. And she asks him just for a piece of bread. And well, the man invites her in and serves her some of the food that he was going to give to the master. And so she eats and she leaves and goes on her way. And then there's another knock at the door, and he thinks it's the master, but it's a stranger. And the man had been traveling in the desert, and he was so thirsty and asked, could I just have something to drink? Do you have anything you could share with me? So the man, of course, invites him in and gives him some of the wine that he had prepared for the master. The stranger drinks, and then he leaves. He goes on his way. And the guy gets everything ready again, and he's prepared. There's another knock at the door, and he's so excited because he knows it's going to be the master. And he opens the door, and it's a little child. And the child is freezing and says, sir, I'm freezing. Could you give me a blanket to wrap around my body? Do you have something I could put around me? And the man, he's so disappointed that it's not the master, but he feels such love for this child. And so he brings him into the home, and he takes the clothes that he was going to give to the master, and he covers the child with them and wraps them all up, warms them up. The child thanks him, and then the child leaves. The master never comes. So the man's disappointed, but he figures, surely something very important must have kept him and must have come up. So the man goes to bed, and he dreams that the master comes to his house. He doesn't know that he's dreaming. The master says, I'm here, but I was here before. I was hungry, and you gave me some food. I was thirsty, and you gave me some wine. I was cold, and you covered me with warm clothes. What you do for others, you do for me. Sounds biblical, right? It's got some Jesus undertones in that story. But when the man wakes up, the next day he is filled with happiness because he understands the joy of that lesson. Those 3 people were sent by the master so that he could learn that the master is in everyone we encounter. So it was an opportunity for him to experience unity and oneness. And we all have that opportunity. We have that opportunity so much these days. When we are in a position to help others, which we almost always are in some capacity, it actually empowers us spiritually and makes us happy. Okay, so the last way I want to talk about to cultivate our happiness is exercise. Ew, I don't want to work out. Super lazy. Yes, exercise actually makes us happy because of endorphins and those feel-good chemicals going on in our brain when we exercise. And what's funny is I actually toyed with calling this talk How to Be Happy in 10,000 Easy Steps. That's what I was going to call it, because 10,000 steps a day is not easy. And that's the number, right? That's the target number that we are supposed to walk every day to see health benefits and manage our weight and improve our fitness. Yeah. But 10,000 steps a day takes a lot of work and a lot of time. Okay, I've tracked it. And for my little legs, it takes me between about an hour and a half to 2 hours to actually get to 10,000 steps. That's a huge chunk of my day. And it can feel daunting and overwhelming. But guess what? It's not even real. It is not real. That 10,000 steps a day thing was an arbitrary number. It was made up as a marketing gimmick. You can Google that. That's for real. It was not studied. It was not based in science. And so when they finally did study it, the true number for health benefit was between 5,000 and 7,000 steps. 5,000 and 7,000 steps. Can you believe that? So my point is today, every step forward counts. Forward is forward. That is true with everything. It's true with an exercise fitness routine. It's true with our spiritual faith and our spiritual practice. It is true with cultivating more happiness in our life, living a successful life. So our call to action is to just make the effort in whatever way feels right, however much you can. Make the effort to be happy first. Be aware of your good, because your good is here. Know the truth of who and what you are, because you are wonderful. And so am I. And so it is. Thanks.
All right. Unmute yourself. There we go. It makes a difference. Thank you, Reverend Cynthia.
Thank you.
An awesome talk on happiness, where we have within us the happiness. And with that happiness, giving is part of what she was talking about. So you can give at cslmidtown.org/donate. Scan the QR code that's on the screen. And say with me now our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow. And all that I share with life returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is. And we appreciate your contributions. There are so many things that we do. We bring you these wonderful speakers. We have this presentation, all this online activity. And then once a month, we have our in-person celebration in Atlanta at the Garden Hills Community Center. And speaking of that, the first Sunday in March will be our annual meeting. So I invite you to come plan with that. Come plan that on your calendar and come and see us in person as we share what we've done the last year and where we're headed this year in 2025. And we appreciate you all. Next week, we have a speaker who we've had before, Reverend Dr. Alma Stevens. Welcome her back. Ripples, the art of mindful living, which is kind of a little bit of what the happiness that Cynthia was talking about today. It goes on our theme of the month, radical interconnection. And Sundays before the talk at 10 a.m., we have a study group that's talking about the Science of Mind textbook, going through that whole textbook. And you're welcome to join that if you are interested in delving a little bit deeper into what Science of Mind is and how it can be used in your life. And then right after this, now, if you are available, come join us over on the Zoom. We'll have a discussion with Reverend Cynthia, talk a little bit about her talk on happiness. So you're welcome to come join us there. Go to cslmidtown.org and scroll down, see the Zoom link with the little code, click that and log in. We'll see you there. And now our affirmation of life. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I look at the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I am grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Have a great week, everybody.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all that I have. Hey, oh yeah, grateful. I just say I am so grateful every day for all I have. Every day, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for all I have. Every day I say it. Grateful. How I'm grateful. Every day. Oh yeah. I am so grateful. Oh yeah. I'm so grateful. 'Cause I accept and I receive. I am so grateful. Oh yes, I am. I am. So grateful, hey, grateful. I just
There is a power for good in the universe greater than you are.